Welcome to this video, final coverage of the Zurich Chess Challenge. We had the final round of classical chess yesterday, and today we have the final part of this event, a rapid tournament. So 5 more rounds, and it actually counts to the overall standings in a way that I now finally have understood. It's the classical games count double compared to the rapid. So a win in classical gave 2 points and 1 point for a draw, while in the rapid a win gives 1 point and half a point for a draw, just like usual. Meaning that Carlsen has not won the event yet. He needs to score some points in the rapid at least to not give it away, but he won with 1, or let's say 2 points in the counting system they apply. With 2 points, he was 2 points ahead, so he really needs to have an absolutely atrocious day to spoil that. Okay, let's look at 2 games. I selected 2 games of the what is this? 15 games overall. There were many interesting ones actually, but there was one game that was so crazy I need to feature it, and this is the second one of the 2, and this takes simply so much time that it does not really allow to look at much more. So I'm starting with this game, Caruana against Carlsen. Let's see. We have a Reti opening. Yeah, Caruana is playing that once in a while. He has followed the trend of playing some less theoretical openings. He of course plays mainline stuff. Just think of yesterday's martial attack on the white side of the Rui against Aronian. But now he's playing one of those slow Reti style openings. And this is interesting for me because this is how I play as well as white. Yeah, this could easily happen in one of my games. Yeah, white has fianchettoed the bishop, and now d3, c4, put a foothold in the center. Knight b d7, and now the capture. Yeah, this idea is only a product of, let's say, maybe the last 20 years. Before that, they almost all the time went for a double fianchetto in the typical style of the Reti opening, just like Richard Reti himself played it in the 20s. This type of position, which still is a valid way to play, but is considered less critical nowadays. The capture is a bit sharper in lots of lines. One point is that the natural recapture e takes d5, which of course is playable, no doubt, that this leads to a fairly unbalanced position in a couple of moves. That's the nature of this opening. You don't have a direct clash in the center or anything sharp happening directly, but here after knight c3 and a later e4, you get a sharp position later. If you watch my channel regularly, you might remember games that I have played in this structure. After a subsequent e4, I just put some of those moves on the board to show what I'm talking about, something like that. And then later white can push with f4 and e5. So this leads to sharp play, but only later, and it keeps pieces on the board. This is why the Reti can be a really fighting opening. It's not necessarily boring. But Carlsen plays c takes d5, which is a bit more solid, let's say. It does not give white this extra pawn in the center. What black is accepting, however, is that he has a really mediocre position of the knight on d7. The knight really would love to be on c6 in the structure. Bishop e3, and bishop c5. This is fairly logical. The white bishop does not have any great square, and bishop e3 is also intending queen b3, attacking this pawn in a situation where black cannot so easily protect it. Let's say he would play bishop e7 just for argument's sake. This is a bit uncomfortable now, how to defend that. You don't have this move. It's not the end of the world, but this is white's idea. Bishop c5, Carlsen's move, I think, is just simpler. Why not get rid of this? Knight c3, castles, and queen d2. Yeah, how to assess this position? I think this is in a way also a matter of taste and a matter of experience. I have played this type of position quite often, and I think that very often in the long run white has some chances to push in this position, but it's of course not very substantial. The white slide pull often consists of the fact that the bishop on f5 is not especially great. I know the g2 bishop is also not great, but very often you many moves later, white can often get in e4 and push the f5 bishop away while the own g2 bishop is activated. Another point can be that the bishop on f5 can also sometimes simply be exchanged, and then e4 the position opens up. All in all, this is almost equal, but my personal experience is though that white sometimes can do a little bit of something. Rook c1, this is all very normal. Yeah, and this is also something that is in white's favor. He can he can easily gain some space on the queen side. As mentioned, it's not decisive or anything, but it's a bit more comfortable for white. Yeah, note that this is a nice central square, but black of course has the e5 idea. Knight b3 and e5. So black has gained some space in the center, but this does not mean that he has really gotten an advantage or something. The next maneuver is very instructive. Knight h4, back to h7, and bishop h3. Also a well-known maneuver in this structure. The bishop on h3 is activated and now fulfills a useful role, while the h7 bishop is biting on granite. This is a constant problem of this bishop on f5 or here on h7. It's just looking at the d3 pawn and doing nothing. Still, nothing terrible has happened. d4. That's an interesting move. I must admit that at first I thought this would give something for white, because it opens up the long diagonal. Black gives up some control over those squares, and
check.
Yeah, this happened. Let's look at this position. Around here I thought white should be better, but probably I'm overestimating things here. I'm a bit biased because I have played this structure so often for white. I thought white does have something because he controls the c-file. Black cannot easily advance the pawns. If he goes e4, there's always d4 hanging. And I thought in the long run maybe white can improve pieces like the knight on b3. We see that after rook d8, Caruana is doing exactly that. He's going knight a1, which looks a bit crazy at first, putting the knight in the corner. But this is a useful route. Getting the knight to c4, attacking e5, looking at b6. Would be very nice if you could manage that. But in this position now, Carlsen chose to completely completely change the position. He had some interesting alternatives to the move that he played. It was not necessary to do that, what he did. He played e4, which is interesting, really interesting. I'm not completely sure how to assess it. Maybe it's not the best move, but it leads to interesting play. He could have done some other moves that are interesting as well. The computer gives one very very strange move, but it's too funny not to show it. Bishop e4. I wonder if there is some human that really would think of that move. Isn't this great? It just intends to get this, to exchange the somewhat bad bishop on h7, and yeah, it's completely crazy this move. Okay, the capture is not too big of a problem. I think this is actually okay for black. Very strange line, but this does not have much point if white just reacts with a normal move like bishop g2, for example. Then I mean, the capture here is just good for white, I guess, with this strong bishop. Yeah, but it's just too funny not to show the move. There also was a solid choice, and this is maybe the best move, knight to e8, intending knight e to c7, and maybe even knight b5. Yeah, this might be the way to go. There's also, at the right moment, f6, king h8, bishop g8, or king f8, bishop g8, activating the bishop. This might be the best move and probably leading to an equal position. However, he played this one, and this has a purely tactical background. White takes, of course, this was the idea. He couldn't take here anyway because of the fork. So knight d4, this was planned. And then ed3, yeah, and now a tactical shot, bishop d3. Quite a shocking move. I think that he really wanted to get rid of the bishop, and the upcoming tactical complications are not clear at all. So it's an interesting way to play. The computer it does not like it. It wants to play something like queen to d6. Just stay put, not doing much, just putting pressure on the d pawn in the long run and prove that black has some compensation. Yeah, maybe he has some compensation, but this is not a very human way to think. He played all this for this move, and of course he did it. Takes and knight takes. This was the idea. Carlsen is trying to exploit the temporary lack of coordination in white's camp. Note that absolutely all pieces are unprotected or loose. Unprotected, 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 unprotected. And it's actually quite remarkable that there's nothing dropping off here for white. Very often this old John Nunn rule, loose pieces drop off, applies. But here it does not seem to be the case. White has got the resource queen c3, which protects at least most of the pieces. And it has an important point, of course. Maybe this is where Carlsen's miscalculation was. I'm not sure. I mean, this is not lost or anything, but maybe around here was the problem. Here he played knight e4. He must do that. Otherwise, it's just a piece. So knight e4 and knight f5. This is, of course, the all-important point, threatening checkmate. And now it's forced. Queen f8, queen b4, and knight takes. Black could not take with the queen, as queen e4,
check,
queen c1 check, bishop f1, queen a1, and queen b7 is winning for white. This is not playable for black at all. White will get the a pawn, and has good coordination. This is an easy win. So knight takes. And knight c2, getting it into the game, back into the game. So we have a position where black has rook and pawn against two pieces. And it's all about piece activity and coordination now. And I think that white has slightly the better chances, but it's not easy to play for black at all. I think white is, from a practical point of view, white maybe has more than a slight pull because it's easier for him to coordinate the pieces. If you look at this, this is all fairly logical. White has those knights, they are protected, and white has easy posts on e3 and maybe d5 later. And he's got this pressure against the b7 pawn. An important point is, of course, that the pawn that black has got, together with the rook for the two pieces, the pawn is completely worthless at the moment. He does not have a pass pawn. If we would remove b pawn and a pawn from this position, then black should be completely okay. But yeah, ifs don't count in chess really. h5, this is very normal move. Strong player almost without thinking plays h5, as you cannot allow white to play h5 to soften up the position. Yeah, queen f6, knight f3. Yeah, we have a repetition here, and now Caruana avoids it. I think very justified. White is as mentioned, simpler to play. And it seems that Carlsen's next move is a mistake. And in fact, a pretty substantial mistake. However, always take into account we are talking about the rapid game here. And I'm already on move on minute 16 of my summary, and they have only seconds to play out their moves. So it's always to be taken into account how much time they had. This even more so applies for the second game that I'm going to show. But okay, he played king g7, and this is tactically a very unlucky move. The point is, and maybe you can treat this as an exercise, what is white's move here? White's next move is yeah, not terribly difficult to find, but very strong. What is white's move? Okay, I'm going to put it on the board now. Queen c3. It's not a direct tactical stroke, like a sacrifice, but it's very strong, this move. It lines up the queen on the diagonal, and it introduces some tactical points. The first point, very simple, is of course this one is hanging, and yeah, what is black's move here? This is the problem. If he protects the knight, yeah, with rook c8, white is playing a knight b4 and has this move coming. Black cannot move the queen due to this discovered check, and knight d5 is just a very big threat. If both knights are in the center, this will be too much. White is in fact completely winning here. It's not even an advantage or something, it's a flat out win. So what else is there? You cannot move the queen as mentioned, as you run directly into this stuff. Yeah, he went knight to d7. And yeah, now the problem is, look at this. White would like to take, now with the knight driven away from c5, b7 hangs. But at the moment you cannot take because of queen f2.
Check.
Yeah, so next move is very logical, f4, which has the added benefit to control e5. And now black is in a terrible situation. It's almost a Zugzwang. What should black play now? The threat here is knight b4 to d5 or knight e3 to d5, and then it all explodes on the long diagonal. In the meantime, the b pawn is hanging. He went b5, there is nothing better really, and then knight to b4. Yeah, and now knight d5 is an enormous threat. An enormous threat. Yeah, Carlsen now played knight to b8. The toughest defense was rook g8, getting out of this diagonal, but at the end this should not be sufficient to hold it. It's an open question for me what moves exactly white should play. There are many good ones. Maybe queen c7. This looks quite good. It keeps this idea in the game, attacking both pieces. It's hard to suggest a move for black. What are you playing now? If you move this knight, let's say here, for example, there's knight d5, and black is just exploding. Yeah, something like that. You will lose all those pawns, and then the a pawn is, come on. Then the a pawn is decisive, supported by the bishop. Yeah, it's still tougher than this one. After knight b8, there was knight d5. Yeah, and now of course if you move the queen, let's say here, you run right into
checkmate.
This checkmate. Carlsen tried b4, but after knight f5 check, he needed to resign in view of takes, and okay, it's
check.
Also a checkmate, even queen h8 mate, like that.
Checkmate.
It's unavoidable. So a nice win by Caruana against Carlsen. Always nice to beat the world champion. I think Caruana has also beaten him in the Blitz game, so at least he got the better of him in the quicker time controls. Yeah, the whole thing, the whole question is how to assess this kind of transformation. I think maybe with absolutely perfect play that black might be okay, but it's much easier for white to play, and Carlsen crumbled under white's pressure. So a nice win for Caruana, and I'm not spoiling anything for the next game that I'm going to show if I tell you that Carlsen didn't have a great tournament. He lost, not only lost this game, but let's see if Aronian fared better and has chances to, or had chances to catch him. Next game I'm going to show is Nakamura against Aronian, and here it's very important, really keep in mind that this was a rapid game, 15 minutes per player, and I think a 10-second increment. Was it 10? I think a 10-second increment, which is of course almost mandatory for an event like that, to not have silly rook against rook stuff at the end. But okay, it's a quick time control, and what is going to happen in this game is so out of this world at times that you simply cannot expect anything else but yeah, but errors. It's just they played remarkably well. I mean, I'm just want to remind you that this is not a tournament game or correspondence chess or computer chess. This is two humans playing a very quick game. Okay, let's start. Yeah, 1b3. This move is having a bit of a renaissance. Is this a renaissance? Is this the right pronunciation? It's getting into fashion again. Nakamura is playing it, Jobava is playing it sometimes, especially in rapid chess. These kind of queenside fianchettos are getting more popular. Yeah, and no surprise, Aronian likes to play this very solid London type of setup. So also in this game, Nakamura, h3. What is the point of this move? We are going to see this soon. So are you ready for the point of h3? Here it is. This was the point. Okay, so white is combining c4 and g4 and is also pretty much telling black, okay, we are going to play hand-to-hand combat here. This will not be some maneuvering game where we shuffle pieces. Let's see who is the better calculator in this open fight. Knight, bishop to h7, of course, and rook g1. Yeah, white wants to use this diagonal supported by h and g pawn and the rook on g1 to get pressure, and this is a valid idea. I mean, it's a bit unconventional and risky, but especially in rapid play, this straightforward approach can be very dangerous. Knight bd7. He took on d5 and then pushed h4. Yeah, and this is pressure. g5 is a threat. How do you react as black? Yeah, I think Aronian reacted fine. He played knight e4. Nice centralizing move, and he's giving up the g7 pawn. Quite remarkable. Probably he was thinking that g5 is coming anyway, and then you probably need to give it up in any case. Of course, we need to check concrete lines here. What happens if white takes? Nakamura didn't take, but he could have taken. It's not a bad move necessarily, but it's not really so much in the spirit of the position where you fight for the initiative. Let's have a look. Black, of course, plays rook g8. The first thing to check, and this is easy, can you take here? Yeah, you cannot. Bishop h4 is very good for black. He's attacking here, and this kind of capture leads to a double attack, and black is winning. You cannot take the pawn. You need to stay on your good diagonal. Bishop b2 back is the best move. Yeah, and here black can black has a choice. He can take on h4, which I don't like so much. This type of position seems a bit better for white. He's got the better pawn structure, two bishops, and it's not so clear if black has a direct counterplay. It's important that you cannot play a move like, let's say, knight f6 here because of d3, and this is going away. Instead of the capture, yeah, need to put this on the board. Instead of the capture, there is bishop f6, and this is the move that is probably better. This leads to interesting play. One point is that a move like d4 now is answered with the capture, and then the bishop here is hemmed in. And a move like taking, queen takes, d4, and then probably long castles, gives up the initiative to black. It's not easy to play this position. Note that something like this, for example, leads to some inconvenience. You need to take with the king here. Yeah, it's you can analyze this in more detail, but I think it's a good practical decision not to take the pawn. It surrenders the initiative. He played g5. Took. Yeah, and now black had a choice. In fact, he played castles, which is probably okay. An interesting alternative was king f8, protecting this with the king. in order to use the rook on the h-file. The h-file is not bad, of course, for the rook. So maybe black would be able to play a bishop move later and then use the rook on the original square. This was an interesting way to play, not bad at all. But castle seems fine as well. d3.
Check.
And here he gave the check. Yeah, probably a good decision. Yeah, you didn't really have a good retreat square, and yeah, and this move here is yeah, it's just not nice to play for black. Note that this is not working due to rook h1 with a win. You need to play f6 here, and once you reach this position in your calculation, you simply stop the line. It just does not, it's just not looking right. You want to fight for the initiative yourself, and this is what Aronian is trying to do. Here he played c5, seems okay. Knight c5 was also interesting, but this is met by the strong reply queen g4, attacking the bishop, and here black does not really have a great move. If he plays something like a5, you can just secure the king. You can never take here really, because of this double attack, easily winning. c5 is logical. He wants to break with pawns, so certainly a good move. a3 by Nakamura. Yeah, here white had a very serious alternative. He could have tried queen to h5, simply threatening rook h1 with a win. And this is interesting. Black probably needs to play queen b6 so that he has a possible queen g6 to protect the king, and then maybe bishop g2, attacking here. Black cannot take. Yeah? This is very important because this wins instantly. So black here needs to do something else. Maybe a move like c4. And this is just a complete mess, this position. If you are able to assess it, yeah, great. I have no idea what's going on in this position. Many interesting possibilities. If you, for example, if white takes.
Check. Check.
You're losing the important piece. But note that after something like this, black has very good play with this idea. Bishop d4, rook c8. Yeah, it just continues. White does not have a mating attack, but he's got a pawn and he's got okay pieces. It's just completely unclear. Queen h5 was interesting, but Nakamura's move is not bad at all. Yeah, queen takes, and now rook e8. A very sensible move. It gets the rook on the half-open file. It introduces d4, which is of course a move that black would love to play. Kill this bishop. And it also, at one moment, might provide shelter here with knight f8. Yeah, Nakamura's next move is very ambitious, but this is not the type of position where you should play any slow moves. He played f4. Very, as mentioned, ambitious, but also, sorry, a very human move. He wants to put the king on f2, and most important, f4 is also a defensive move. He wants to defend against the knight e5 threat. The knight on e5 would be quite terrible. The computer does not like the move at all. and instead wants to play d4, covering covering e5. But this is a move, I can assure you, that is very, very difficult for a human to play, as it kills your own bishop. You might activate it later with a capture. It's not a structure that a human really likes to play. I can assure you that white built the whole game around the b2 bishop, and you don't want to take the scope away from it. Of course, it might happen that you take or black takes and it gets opened up again. But yeah, all this is not so easy. I mean, if you take, just for example, look at this. This is not nice. If you go here, and black is going to kill you. The king here is very lonely. It's tricky. I mean, d4 is maybe okay for the computer, but it's very difficult to play. Of course, d takes c5 is a bad move, but something like that is probably right. f4, a human move and an interesting move. It also sometimes allows the queen to switch over. Queen b6 and king f2. This was the idea, giving the king some shelter here, protecting e3. And of course, black now can take, and this is what he did. Instead of king f2, by the way, there also was the move g6, leading to interesting play. Yeah, you need to use the rook. If black takes with the pawn, this looks very ugly. He can play that. It's not terrible. If he takes with the pawn, white can try the move b4, trying to fight for the long diagonal, and this might lead to completely crazy complications. d4, b takes c5,
check.
Rook takes e3. Queen e3. Yeah, the queen is here saying as well. Takes.
Check. Check.
And we have
check.
A draw. Black can go to h8 and continue the game. It is completely unclear what's happening then. Rook d1, for example. And now black has various ideas. He can play queen h2, for example, to attack here. The computer is constantly on 0, 0, 0, probably because of tons of perpetual checks. It's a completely crazy position. After g6, however, bishop g6 is the more interesting choice. And after f5, the idea, of course, bishop takes,
check,
rook takes, king f8. It is super difficult to assess. Here the computer even gives the completely crazy looking move e4. I really don't think that a human player would come up with this move. I mean, at least not in a game where you have little time. The crazy point is that d takes e3, e4 is not playable due to long castles. This clears the king out of the e file, and after e3, queen h2, white is winning. Yeah, why exactly is white winning? Very tricky to tricky to say. Queen h8 is one idea, and the king is of course in some trouble. Also rook g8 is an idea. This is a winning line.
Check.
Yeah, okay, this is in fact the problem. This is a mate.
Check. Checkmate.
So it's probably here, and
check.
Then queen here. Yeah, all this looks like the pieces have been put on the board in some random pattern. Very, very crazy stuff. Yeah, g6 was possible, really. It is completely unclear. This what I just showed.
check,
Black can answer instead of taking on e4, which loses. He can also play d4, which is a far more human move, blocking this bishop. And after that, maybe queen g5 is coming. With maybe unclear play. Computer is on 000. But I can assure you this is murderous to play. I mean, everything's hanging. What is going on here? Yeah, also f5, g6 and f5 was interesting, but Nakamura went king f2. He obviously had spotted the idea as he played it now. It leads to comparable positions. Bishop takes and f5. Yeah, here Aronian didn't take, but played d4, which is stronger. After the capture,
check,
it's really similar to what we had before. But maybe this one, something like that is probably arising. I know black, if you just count it, 5 pawns, 3 pawns, black is 2 pawns up. But have a look at this position, queen h2. The dark squares. The dark squares are very tricky. Therefore, Aronian's move, d4, makes lots of sense. He blocks this bishop and threatens, of course, d takes e3, winning the queen. So white only has the move e4. There is no alternative, really. He could have taken here, but after that, something like that is just terrible. This is open, okay, but black is just attacking with knight here, or oops, knight e5 coming. White's king is just even more insecure than black's. So e4 is necessary. Yeah, and here Aronian went for a practical decision, which I like. He took on f5. It's maybe not mathematically the best move, but it's a good practical decision, as mentioned. He could have taken, or let's say he could have kept the bishop with bishop h5, which is not crazy, but it leads to very unharmonious play. Rook g5 is the point, attacking this. And I'm not sure you want to play the move g6. And on this move, there is rook e1, intending e5. And this is really not so clear. Black can try to block it, but then a move like bishop c1 and queen f4. This white is pushing or switching all pieces to the king side, and this is not clear at all. Also note that rook g7 is a possibility. Rook g7, king g7, queen h6 check takes on f6. This is completely unclear. So maybe after this he needs to play g6. But this is just very, very shaky, this position. You always fear that white might take on h5 at some point. Then queen h6, rook g1 mate. I know this is making 3 moves at once. But in a game, do you want to play that position? I don't. He took on f5. I think this is just better because it keeps the initiative. White takes. And rook e3. Just a good active move. It prepares knight e5. Possibly prepares queen d5. And note that black already has 3 pawns for the piece. Yeah? He's not material down. He has given up a piece on f5, but he had pawns already to boot. Instead of rook e3, there was also rook e5. It's a possible idea. Nakamura played rook b1, intending this discovery. And here Aronian played queen d5. This is maybe not the best move, but yeah, they were probably down to blitz time control now. I mean, the clock times here are not accurate, but I cannot believe they still had like 12 minutes on the clock. They were certainly down to little time. The computer suggestion here is completely crazy, completely crazy. The comp wants to play knight e5 with a completely wacky line, bishop d4. And this is a position you really should look at for a moment and try to grasp what pieces are hanging. I mean, this is really like out of a randomizer or out of a mating study or problem. I think it looks completely crazy. Black now, yeah, I mean, everything's hanging. If you take the rook, white wins after queen e3. Yeah, this is hanging. So black cannot take the rook, cannot take on d4 because the queen hangs. So what should he do?
Check.
Check. The only move. And now white must play king e2. King g2 is losing instantly due to this, and there are a ton of discoveries that are dangerous, and just winning. So need to go here, only move, not to e1 because it is a check. Yeah, and now after queen takes, bishop e5, black plays rook takes f5, bishop g7. These are all only moves. There is no alternative. You can check it with an engine if you like. f6 and bishop
check.
h6 check, king h8, and the computer assessments of this is the simple equal, completely equal. Yeah, black is threatening rook e8, winning himself, and the computer states that this draw should be played. Of course, this is a completely theoretical assumption, as no one is going to calculate this stuff. It just is intended to show what kind of crazy things black needed to consider in this position. White, of course, as well, but it's black's move here. Aronian played queen d5, and maybe this is not the best, but the reason why it might be not the best is is beyond human capabilities.
Check.
Rook g7, he certainly didn't overlook. This is relatively easy to see. Yeah, because king takes, queen takes is good for white. I mean, not super clear, but it's probably good for white. Black can take yet another pawn, but this endgame should be better for white. The two bishops will put up quite some pressure against black's pawns. He played king f8, certainly the plan. Yeah, and here it seems that white could have gained the somewhat better chances maybe with the weird move, really weird move, king g1. Of course, this is purely computer stuff. No human is going to. I mean, maybe by coincidence, but you're not you're not really able to calculate all this. The crazy thing about the move is that you run right into knight e5 to f3, but it allows bishop g2. This is the idea. So it has points, of course. The line is now knight e5, bishop g2, queen a2, forced. There's nothing else really. And now after where's my notes? Where is the line? Rook a1, queen b3, f6. Yeah, this kind of continuation. Queen takes, queen c1 here, and possibly here. It's difficult for black to defend. Of course, there are always perpetuals possible, but black is the one that needs to be more careful here. For example, after bishop g2, black also could consider to take on d3. Just showing that. There's this reply threatening rook g8 and white's winning. Maybe king g1 was interesting. He played rook g2, and this might lead to trouble. This is after knight e5 is maybe not the best one. Okay, rook e8 is the engine suggestion, getting even this piece into play. I mean, it's not difficult to see that this is a useful move, but to consider the various nuances between the moves is very, very difficult. After rook e8, white should probably play king g1, get out of the direct threats here. After this, knight e5, bishop e2. Black has the move rook takes e2. This is quite nice, this line. Check.
Check. Check.
Check again. Yeah, and here the fun thing is that after rook
Check.
g8, white only has one reply that is not losing. This is queen g7. Yeah, I told you it is a crazy game.
Check.
Threatening to promote, and
Check.
black needs to prevent this. Only by this is possible. Yeah, and we have reached an endgame where black has a queen against 2 rooks and bishop, but he's got 3 pawns. This will end in a draw, most likely, by a perpetual, unless someone is blundering, but easily possible. So, very complicated stuff and impossible to calculate. If we go back to show what was actually on the board, we had this position. Rook e8 is what I was looking at, and what he played is the completely normal looking move, knight e5. Not bad, not bad. Rook e8 was maybe a bit more testing. Nakamura played queen d1, going to the light squares and maybe intending queen h5 if possible. And now Aronian played rook to e8. He also could have played the check, which is, to be honest, probably what I would have played. This gets the pawn back, introduces knight f3, and maybe you can go king to e7 and get this rook into play. I mean, this is completely unclear. Completely unclear. Black is easier to play, I guess, because this bishop is so bad at the moment. It might get stronger, but at the moment it's not doing much. But I think I would prefer black in a practical game. What he did is not bad though, not at all. He played rook e8, Nakamura bishop c1, and now Aronian played the funny move b6, just ignoring the attack and strengthening the pawn chain. Yeah, the thing is, white cannot really take here. We can look at it.
Check.
And well, this is not possible at all due to the check.
Check.
And black wins the house. So here he would need to move the king. Can go to g3, but after queen d6, white has no way to avoid an absolutely murderous discover check. It's this is probably lost. White should really not take there. He didn't. He played queen h5. And I think here is the point where Aronian should have played a different move. He played queen f3 now, getting the queens off. And I think this is probably based on a miscalculation, because I think white's king is still, yeah, the more problematic. I mean, white's king is in more trouble than black's king, is what I'm trying to say, and you should not exchange queens. Furthermore, he had a really direct good continuation. The check, king here, and rook f5. And this, I think, leads to a position where black is maybe even slightly better. What is white supposed to do? We are probably, you need to take here. You really don't have a queen move available. You can give one check, but
check.
What are you doing now? This is just a very strong threat.
Check.
Sorry.
Check.
This is what I was looking at. Maybe you need to take knight f3 check.
Check.
Need to give the queen.
Check.
Get another check. And king to e7. Maybe he had something miscalculated here. But I think in this position black is somewhat better. It's easier to play with the queen against those pieces. But of course, with this time control, anything could happen. But I think he should have done that. Just my opinion. I'm not sure. It's you see, it's super complicated. Yeah.
Check.
After the queen trade.
Check.
This is how it was played. After the queen trade, it's clear that I think only black needs to be cautious, because, yeah, he's got 3 pawns, but white has 2 bishops that will get active, and there's always the danger that the white extra piece is useful in winning pawns. And a couple of moves later. Yeah, you could analyze this as well. I know it's there are many possibilities, but let's get to the next important transformation. We had this trade. Let's put this on the board here. Here, this is an interesting endgame, and I must say that I had the fear that this video is going to last so long that no one is going to watch it till the end. So I did not analyze this in lots of detail. Also taking into account that they probably only had very little time left here. Of course, black can only think of securing a draw here. He needs to get rid of pawns, and those two he needs to get. Of course, there's a6 b5 as an idea, but white will reply a5. He will not exchange. So it's it should be black's goal to advance the pawns, and maybe what would be helpful, to exchange one pair of rooks. I think this would be helpful to get more mobile with the king. In the game, he relatively quickly gets into trouble. What he's doing is he's playing the king over here and allows a later rook e7. And it seems to me that he should just try to stay put, like here, rook h6, rook h8, just stay like this and not do much. I don't really see how white is going to improve his position here. If black just stays, it's tricky. White is better, of course, but is he winning? I doubt it. In the game, yeah, we see that he's trying to play actively, pushing the pawn here, so that he has actually some influence with the rook. But white managed to enter here, and around this spot, I think it's very critical. I don't really see a defense anymore. Not quite sure what the idea was while he played f5. One idea, of course, is that after this you get one pair of rooks off, which I already mentioned might be helpful. Note that, of course, rook bishop against rook is a draw. Not fun to play, but it's a draw. So if black manages to exchange one pair of rooks and 4 pawns against 2, he's okay. But Nakamura didn't take. He just activated the king and entered with the rook. And around here, I doubt that black can really save it. But okay, it continued.
Check.
Funny trick. And it's still, the point is exchange the pawns. And black is making some progress in this
Check.
area. Look, there's only one pawn left, and if black gets that one, then it will be a draw, at least theoretically speaking, a draw. Played d3, intending the check.
Check. Check. Check.
Repeating a couple of times, gaining some seconds on the clock.
Check.
Yeah, and here he took on b6, interestingly enough. Yeah, it's a good, probably a good practical decision. It's not easy in this position to play this type of position. How do you win as white? I mean, you probably are winning, and the computer is just giving +5. But it's not so easy to see how you get the pawn without giving up the a pawn. This can easily happen. What he was probably seeing is this. He took here. Check. He calculated this line and was probably believing that white is winning here in the rook endgame. If you would have showed me this position and asked me how would you assess it, I would also say, okay, white should be winning, because the king is cut off. You have the idea to put your rook behind the pawn, always a big advantage. So I would have said it should be a win. If you give it to an endgame table base, obviously playing perfectly, it just says it's a draw. And black can draw with a series of only moves, but of course he didn't find it. But you can maybe find it because you let's say yeah, are lucky to select the right approach, but it's very tricky to do. He played rook a6, and this loses. What draws is rook b1 and rook c6 check. Those two moves do draw.
Check.
This, for example, here, this is a draw
Check.
with rook b1 check. The point is that you give checks, and the white king cannot really avoid to go to the a file. If you go
Check.
somewhere else, like here,
Check.
you always get these checks.
Check.
And the only way to make
Check.
any headway is at one point to go here, and then black is going back with the king. Something like that is happening. And if the rook stays on the d file, black stays on the b file, and white is not making any progress. So he needs to give up this blockade on the d file. So the rook needs to move somewhere here, for example, and then black, yeah, probably does not matter, and then black can approach with the king and draw the game. But this is just a theoretical thing. I mean, with seconds on the clock, very tricky. In the game, he played rook a6, though I must admit rook a6 looks really passive. Rook a3, yeah. But yeah, very, very tricky to do. Now rook a3, yeah, and this is winning in fact because of this old rule. The rook behind the pawn is ideally placed.
Check.
Yeah, and now everything is played perfectly.
Check.
I checked it with the
Check.
table base. I mean, okay, not perfectly in the sense of in the exact winning in the shortest possible way, but very convincing.
Check. Check.
Yeah, and here Aronian resigned. Nakamura won this titanic battle, and I think a fascinating fighting game. And in fact, I even didn't show some lines that I had prepared because I mean, I have a jungle of variation and variations, and maybe even skipped some of them because it's so hard to read this this clutter of moves. So a very interesting fighting game. Okay, what is the final result of this rapid portion of the event? In fact, Carlsen had a terrible event, one of the worst that you can remember probably. He won the first game against Gelfand, but then lost 3 in a row and only drew the last game against Anand. So he had only 1.5 points out of 5. Really very modest by his standards. Winner of the rapid portion is Caruana with 3.5 points. And yeah, Vichy had a dreadful tournament with 0.5 point, if I'm not mistaken. He finished last in the rapid section, which is really a shame, considering that he's one of the best rapid players of all time. So this means for the final standings that Carlsen is the overall winner still, because he had this lead from the regular time control. And I don't know really if it's a good idea to combine those two things, but all in all, it was a very interesting event. The longer time control games were really good fighting chess, and we saw, just like in this game, the rapid portion also provided some nice entertainment and fight. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed my coverage, and I'll be back for the candidates at the latest. If there's some interesting other event before that, I'm going to show some games there as well. Also, in the next couple of weeks, there will be some more videos daily, but I'm not 100% sure yet when I will start with this, because I'm going on a small vacation where during that I'll only have the Blitz games and no additional content probably. So yeah, let's see. Probably in 2 weeks or so there will be some more content besides the Blitz games. Thanks for watching.